Myself Sunil Ramakrishnan Nair, and here basically we are talking about the formula part, that is 217. So here basically we are going to discuss about the formula part, and here basically we are discussing that there are basically many yug, basically the generation basically got ended. In this Sri Ram generation, God generation is there, Sri Krishna generation is there, Jesus generation is there, Jesus Sri God, Sri Jesus basically God is there. So like this basically there are many generation, Hanuman generation, Sri Hanuman Ji generation is there. Like this many generation basically has ended. But their family basically are staying here. Their family basically are staying here. But there are basically few groups basically who are basically staying in other planets. And that is basically 20 lakh planet basically which is created. This basically is not in front of the world. This is same way basically there is no like sun, there is no like moon. It is just a light effect. This basically light effect. So few people says that basically the few people says that in Bihar basically Chhat Puja is there. Then they basically see the sun. Yeah, that is correct. That is the other thing basically. But there is no like sun and there is no like moon. In Ramzan, basically people see this moon and basically then breaks the they start the Eid. That is the different thing basically. But there is no like moon and sun basically. So this is also basically like this. The satellite basically is getting launched today, but it was launched long before basically 1 month before, 2 months before basically, and that basically that is running also. But in front of world basically that has launched today. So there are lots of things basically in the world basically, and there is many softwares basically which says that, for example, one person is going in the doing basically, so sorry, purchasing something, and suddenly basically got in the sleep mode. Sleep mode means from one mobile basically uh, uh, um, connected to his oxygen supply basically from where he is taking the oxygen, and then suddenly basically he gone to sleep mode for 1.5 minute. That 1.5 minute basically he don't know basically what happened to him, what is so this is basically dangerous software which basically police department 100 might be 100% might be knowing, because from their permission only the software came into the market. Because each and every software which comes into the market, that is basically by default approved by the police department. So police will be responsible whatever things is going to happen in that 1.5 minute. That police department will see that what actually happened in that 1.5 minute. Because the apps has basically approved by the high court and supreme courts, and police basically are not enemy of high court and supreme courts, right? Sorry, supreme court and high courts are not enemy of police department, right? So that is basically different thing. Then basically slowly this converts to country, then basically it converts to world war. So basically small things basically convert into the big thing basically, and just due to that 1.5 minute the world war basically started. So there are basically lots of things basically which happens, but that nobody basically able to track that basically why they actually that happened. But that is the basically different thing. And here basically what I want to say, here basically I want to say is that the oxygen supply basically which the IPCL ONGC basically is passing, they basically their oxygen basically supply gets hijacked also. That oxygen supply basically gets hijacked also. Hijack means 1.5 minute basically was disappeared from that person's life. What the 1.5 minute happened? What the what actually happened in that 1.5 minute? Basically, he was not able to track that. Why? Because he was his mind was basically in sleep mode. Mind was basically in sleep mode. But assume that in 1.5 minute he gets heart attack and he dies. Then what will happen? Then world will end, entire universe will end. No, basically nothing is going to happen. That basically God group basically will see, because they also has approved this, right? Because God blood cells basically exist in his blood cells, so God basically also has approved this. So God group basically is going to see, that is basically the universe group basically, and everybody knows that who created the earth planet. That group will see basically the universe basically groups who created the earth planet. That group basically is going to see, that group will be responsible because they created the earth planet. They created the earth planet. So like these things are there basically. So due to some small mistakes basically the world basically might get into the problem. So that is basically different thing. So here basically from this user story, what actually I want to say, I want to say is that the oxygen supply basically which is getting passed from IPCL ONGC in Vadodara city, basically they are only the group basically who are passing the data. So who are basically is passing the data, if anything happens to any of the people, then this group will be responsible. That are basically IPCL and ONGC, and they are basically passing the data with the help of GSFC and power company MGVCL and GEB basically. Old basically data is GEB. So if anything happens to power supply, then basically MGVCL will be going to suffer. But in real, basically GEB is handling each and everything. But MGVCL just in front of the world, in front of the world basically, in front of the world. So like this, basically there are many things basically which are in front of the world, and which is basically not in front of the world, which is not in front of the world. I will take one example basically. Mm, Lots of people says that cricket, cricket, cricket. What actually the cricket is? Then one of the Bollywood person basically told that one child person basically came into the ground and he told that he want to become a cricketer. So the coach told that you can hit the four basically in this ball. Then basically he tried a lot, but basically he was not able to hit the 4 runs. He was not able to hit the 4 run. Then that another person basically came into the picture. He told that the coach told that can you hit six in this ball? He was basically childhood. He was basically child. That time basically he was child. He told that can you hit six in this ball? Can you hit six in this ball? So he told that no. Basically, he also tried lot, but he was not able to hit the six. And the another person basically was not able to hit the 4 run. Then basically coach told that this cricketer basically, this bowler basically is going to do ball in this direction. You have to hit six in this direction. Now you can hit. Then basically the batsman basically was shocked basically what actually he is telling. What actually he is telling. Then he exactly that time basically the this bowler and batsman basically were not not connected with each other. The only coach was there between these two. He was basically communicating with these two people basically. So he exactly done that type of ball, and he hit the six, and another person basically hit the four. Then coach told that this is cricket. This just now basically which happened in two ball, that is actually cricket. One person hit four and one person hit six. That actually is cricket. Coach basically told that this actually is the cricket. Now you got what is the cricket. Then that child basically was shocked basically. Then he got that, yeah, basically now we got actually what is cricket actually. Then the person who hit the four run, he basically told that no, I don't want to play the cricket. But the person basically who hit the six, he basically told that no, I want to play the cricket. Like this, the journey started of cricketer. So that basically we are not talking about what actually cricket is, what actually the thing is. So here same way basically the power supply company gets the data 2 months before that this data basically they are going to supply. They are passing our data according to what the material basically which has got from the another cities to each and every malls, each and every shops. According to that, basically the power company got the data. So you just imagine basically the materials which are going to get, that is also fixed. The oxygen power supply basically that is going to get in the city, that is also fixed. And the people basically which are going to get the oxygen power supply, that is also fixed. So you can just imagine basically up to what level the each and every creation has reached. It's not very dangerous, but it's very, 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 very whatever very basically you add here, whatever very basically you are going to add here, that is less. So this basically is not the story of one city. This is the story of whole world. So what is basically the negative thing and what is the positive? So there might be negative thing and what there might be some positive thing, right? So one person told that the person basically is going to get heart attack after 1 month, because the data which is going to pass to that person, it's going to be passed like that. So here basically even if heart attacks happens, then basically he's going to die. Then power company will be responsible. So this is basically negative, and this is basically the real fact. This is basically the real fact actually, and this everything basically the MLA, corporator, police, everybody basically knows that this person is going to get oxygen power supply as a heart attack data. But nobody is doing anybody is doing anything. Anybody is telling that person basically that you are going to get heart attack, you are going to get heart attack oxygen after 1 month. No. Why? Because they are telling that this is system basically. This is basically the system. So what actually the system is, that I will going to tell you. One person basically is going to get heart attack oxygen after 1 month. Assume that after 1 month basically is going to get heart attack data, and basically the doctor basically don't know that whether he is going to die. Doctor basically don't know that he is going to get heart attack data. So just see basically how dangerous the system is. But the corporator, MLA, and the police department and the judge of the city, these four people basically, and the god group, for example he's believing in Sri Ram or Hanuman god, then this five group basically knows that he is going to get heart attack after 1 month. After 1 month, these five people basically know that he is going to get heart attack from after 1 month. So these five people basically know. These five people basically know. So the main thing is, assume that he was doing fasting of 30 years. From 30 years basically he's doing the fasting. From 30 years basically he's doing the fasting. Then what is the meaning of doing fasting? That is the main thing here. If God people are basically also not telling him that he is going to get heart attack after 1 month, then what is basically doing of fasting? He basically asked the question. Then he basically got so much of tension, and so much of the Bollywood person and one software person basically doing the discussion. This discussion is ongoing between one software person and one Bollywood person. So that Bollywood person and software person both told that. Then what is the meaning of temple basically? That basically he told. He's going to temple from since 30 years. Even God basically, God people basically is telling that we basically can't do anything. He's going to get oxygen power supply of heart attack after 1 month. Then also basically the God group is telling that we can't do anything. Then what is the meaning of temples? That question basically the Bollywood group also asked, and that another software person also asked. Then what is the meaning of temples? Basically, he is going to that temple. Then basically he told that the system basically are so bad that they can remove the temple also. If that person basically is very rich or very powerful, then to give heart attack to that person, basically they will remove the temple also. This was basically told by the one of the Bollywood person. So just to see basically the system basically is to create the system basically create the system chain basically they given the heart attack basically how they basically told that how they basically are sending the heart attack energy that basically is the different matter that basically we are going to see how basically each and every people are going to get the oxygen power supply with signed by this five group: police, god department, mla corporator, mla corporate, and other members. Basically, I forget the chief minister of the state basically, and prime minister also knows this. Without their permission, basically nothing happens because of 2 month data basically which is going to pass to the city that is by default approved by the prime minister and president also. Without their permission, basically nothing get passed. Without their permission, nothing is going to pass because they have signed the subscription plan data that this is the subscription plan data for the 2 month for this particular city. They have signed the data. They have signed the agreement. Then only basically the World Bank is sending their data because they are very perfect about their. Because it might possible that in one day, assume that that person basically got heart attack and that person basically not died, and he was basically very powerful person. Then he basically tracked that why actually was not basically why he got heart attack and what was the reason basically. Then he basically started investigating why basically he got the heart attack, why he basically got the heart attack, why he got the heart attack. So what actually the group want to verify, that basically question basically he asked. That question basically he asked, so is this was the experiment of the doctor industry? That also basically he asked the question, is this the medicine industry experiment? So he basically counted the total doctors basically he visited. Then he told that basically I visited around 16 doctors. So which doctor basically has told this you can do this type of experiment and given the approval to the city power company? Sorry, the MLAs and corporators. Because the MLA and corporator basically by default take the signs from the each and every doctors basically. Without sign basically they are not going to do that stuff. They are not going to send the heart attack oxygen power supply. So just see basically each and everything was basically cleared. Doctor basically what they told, you can take the sign from the medicine industry basically. The medicine data which you are passing. Sorry, which he is eating, and on the base of that basically is going to get heart attack. Because the heart attack oxygen basically was going to use that medicine basically. Medicine oxygen. Sorry, medicine data. Yeah, medicine oxygen also basically you can say. That was basically totally negative oxygen. Positive oxygen was basically going to save his heart, and negative oxygen was going to get heart attack. So each and every group basically knows that he is going to get heart attack. He is going to get heart attack. He is going to get heart attack. Here basically God groups also told that basically we you can basically give him heart attack oxygen. So this basically just now basically we discussed in just 5.5 minutes. It might be more than 5.5 minutes because currently I have not seen the time, but actually the exact time is. So this basically 5 to 10 minutes basically which we have discussed, that basically connects the system basically. and system basically is telling that it's they are itself is telling that it's very bad. They itself is telling that it's not good, it's very bad. So they can't basically tell the any of the person basically that you are going to get the oxygen power supply of the heart attack after 1 month. But they basically can save their people. But the normal basically people who gets the heart attacks, that basically they are not going to tell. They are not going to say. They are not going to say. So this is basically difference between normal person, businessman basically tells that we have basically given the contract to the business Bollywood group, and Bollywood group is telling that we are tracking each and every oxygen power supply basically. If we see going to get some normal disease also, that also basically we are going to track, we are tracking it, and then basically according to that we are basically giving him the medicine also, up to that level basic. Because why? He have the money. He is the money power basically. The businessman basically says that we have the money, so we are using the power. We are using the power, and the power company is telling that we have to take the whatever the thing basically invested, that money also basically we have to do the recovery, right? Because we have invested more than 4 to 5 lakh to 6 lakh crore basically. So from where basically we are going to get that money? Like this only basically we are going to get the money. Like this only basically we are going to get the money. Government basically what money they give? They don't give too much money basically. From that basically we can't recover our entire money. The recovery basically happens like this only. So this also they directly told it. So the government oxygen basically power supply is same basically which each and every people are getting, but there are basically many few people who gets the oxygen power supply from directly from the satellites, but they are basically up to that level basically. Why? Because they are spending crores of rupees basically. They are basically not dependent on the government. Their government basically is totally different. Their rules and regulation basically are totally different. Why? Because they have the money, right? They have the money power basically. They have the money power. So directly basically satellites are basically getting the giving the oxygen power supply. So direct from satellite the oxygen power supply is getting generated. So that's basically different area only basically. That's basically many rich, only rich people basically can afford that. Only rich people basically can afford that. That also basically king's family basically they only can afford, because they have to pay lots of money. Lots of means lots of money. Because one satellite only cost how much? You can just imagine. To city create one city basically it's costing 15 lakh crore. Then satellite it's basically handling the many cities basically. So you can just imagine. You can basically just imagine the thing basically. So this was about the system basically. This was about the system basically. So in this basically assume that person basically was going to get the heart attack. So there might be some light effect basically which might have got him at the last moment basically. There might be some light effect, right? For example, he died just 1 minute before, and before 1 minute basically he basically saw some lights. So that basically light was basically his last light basically, which basically he has saw. So that light basically was having the heart attack data. This was also basically one of the Bollywood person told that. Directly he told it. Directly he told it. That which light basically is seeing, he basically saw last. That basically was the oxygen of heart attack. Basically he told that no, basically how it can be possible. It is possible. So he told that basically there are many ways of death basically. There are many ways basically. There are many reasons basically how the heart attack, how the people dies. One of the experiment basically we have already saw that in the Italy basically there is one city. Italy basically there is one city where basically people sleep in night, but they don't. The entire city basically goes into the water, and then basically they woke up. When they woke up at the morning side, they basically are alive. Why? Because the each and every people basically are controlled by the computers. So that time basically he told that computers basically group was doing some R&D. Medicine industry basically was doing some R&D. So it's bad or it's very bad. This is basically system basically. This is actually the system basically. So here basically the God Italy basically is a Jesus basically Jesus Christ God city because there basically church basically exists. No temple is there. So Jesus Christ group basically has approved this. By default, yes, basically you can say that they have approved it. Jesus Christ group basically has approved this. So God basically gives this type of approval, approves, approvals. So there is no value of basically normal people. There is only value of money people and the powerful people. If you have the money and if you have the power basically, then basically nobody is going to touch you. Otherwise, the city like Italy basically you have to do the experiment. You have to give your body to certain groups. They keeps on using your body, keeps on using keeps on using your body, keeps on using your body. Like this, your body basically keeps on using as an experiment. So like this, basically go with the God approval. Basically, if he is believing in some Hindu gods, basically Hindu god group basically approves it because they says that basically how basically we are going to get the his investment basically. He is getting the oxygen power supply. Then how basically we are going to take the investment of that money basically, which is invested in this person basically. So the Bollywood person basically directly told that this is God group. This is God group. So the God group basically sold his body in the experiment. In the experiment. So God group basically sold his body into the experiment. This basically Bollywood group basically directly told that person basically software industry. So he told that basically your body, yeah, basically my body also basically Bollywood groups. If I basically was having the rich, sorry, basically if I would be having the big money, then basically I can take the oxygen power supply, special oxygen power supply, so that basically no disease will touch me. But I don't have the money basically. Bollywood group also basically says that we are also basically getting just few salary basically. This car basically, this suit, boot, everything is basically of the producers basically. Everything is of the producer basically. We stay in just two three room kitchen in Mumbai. Then what is that bungalow basically? That bungalow basically is the for the temporary purpose basically. Whenever public comes, that time basically the Bollywood people have to go there and they have to tell hi, hi, how are you, like that. So he told that then that software person told that your lifestyle is like this. I thought basically your lifestyle is totally different. I thought basically you are staying in bungalow. You are basically moving the royal cars, Renault Duster cars. Like this car basically you are moving BMW car. Then basically what that hero heroine basically comes in the helicopter. That is just a temporary purpose basically. Just in front of the public that how the Bollywood industry is. To show basically that see basically this is the Bollywood industry. But real fact is what? Real fact is when basically they leave the when the public basically goes at the home and the helicopter basically reaches to the Mumbai and there basically their makeup basically gets out and then basically they goes into the normal taxi and they reach to the one or two three room BHK flat. Few people say that we basically don't have the flat also. We basically stay in the Mumbai Chawl. So he told that that is basically the Bollywood industry. Then he was basically shocked. Then where this money basically is going? That basically he asked the question, because Bollywood groups are getting money in crores of rupees. Bollywood groups is basically getting the money in crores of rupees, not 1 or 2 crore, basically 100, 200 crore. Where this money is going? That question basically that software person basically asked. Then he told that this is basically a big story. Basically, we will be going to discuss this big story after some time. So when basically is going to tell me that story, that time basically we are going to discuss this story, where actually the money is going. But actually he met me and he basically told me the story also. This story basically is very big story. We are going to discuss this story. This is connecting to the economy of the governments. Economic of the government. That basically we are going to discuss. That we are going to discuss. So he told that basically this is Bollywood. This is Bollywood. But they have the user control, user stories of each and every people. Then how they are basically having the big data servers basically. They are basically itself are the data science projects. They basically itself their body basically itself is the data science project and artificial intelligence projects. By the experience of the industry basically, they basically can easily say that this is going to happen after this day, this is going to happen tomorrow, because their artificial intelligence bodies basically says that. According to that basically the softwares are created, data science project, and according to the data science project the artificial intelligence project came into the picture. After certain process basically this is going to happen, after set of this process this is going to happen. So this is basically fixed, that this is only going to happen, this is only basically going to happen after certain time, this is only going to happen after certain time. So you can just see basically the critical level of the things basically. So here basically God groups also basically sold that person body. God groups also basically sold his person's body. They told that basically how basically we are going to take your money. You are basically getting so much of investment basically, but you don't have the money basically. From where basically we are going to get the money? So his body group also basically they sold to the experiment group basically. The God family basically. He was doing fasting for 30 years. They suddenly sold that person's body basically. The God family group basically taken the decision. The God family group basically they have taken the decision that we basically can't afford his expense, and basically he was doing fasting of 30 years. That fasting basically got inside, and they basically directly sold the person's body, and they basically given the body to experiment, his body to experiment. The fasting basically was just gone in paper basically. There is no value of fasting, there is no value of doing puja, in going temple. Everything basically just washed out basically, just washed it basically, washed out basically you can say. Just basically see when the government told that basically this many expenses basically happening of that particular person, they basically told that basically we can't afford the expense, but their family basically expense basically they can afford. The god family person basically expense they can afford, they can have basically, they can purchase basically human clones, they can spend 100 crore dollar basically to the USA, so that basically their blood cells basically is not supposed to get effect, their blood cells basically is not supposed to get effect. For that basically they can spend 100 crore. But one person basically has done the fasting of 30 years, There basically his person's body basically was sold. Then that body, the government basically told that he basically is divorcee and he is basically doing lots of fasting for the second marriage also. Like this, basically lots of things happen. Basically, he's government directly told that basically he's doing fasting of your since 30 years. He basically got divorced. His financial condition is also not good. Like this, each and everything basically government directly told to the God group that he's basically doing fasting of 30 years in front of you. Basically, there is no value of 30 years fasting. They basically directly taken the decision that his body basically we can give to the experiment. We are basically giving his body to the experiment. We are basically giving his body to the experiment. We are basically giving his body to the experiment. Like this, basically anybody was basically taking his blood cells. Anybody was basically taking his blood from his body whenever basically he is going moving to the one of the shop. Basically anybody is taking his blood basically from his body. And nobody was basically stopping also. Because why? God has told that his body is sold basically for the experiment purpose. Why? Because he was not having the money. He was basically not having the money. So like this, his body basically was full for. So here basically there is no value of God. From that basically the Bollywood basically person told that there is only value of money basically. There is only basically value of money. There is no value of you are doing 30 years fasting, you are doing 40 years fasting. Is there any value? Then he basically got so angry basically. Then basically why this temple basically are in this across the road? When why but the basically temples are basically there? Why basically people are doing the puja of the in the temples of the god? That basically discussion was basically ongoing between this Bollywood person and two person. So tomorrow that is sorry the next video basically that is 218 we are going to discuss actually what actually is God, what is fasting, what oxygen power supply basically is he's getting, what is subscription plan basically, what is government, what is basically the cyber industry because digital industry only basically sends the data, what is basically the reservation means the person basically who has basically the god group basically sold his body to the experiment purpose, who is going to give him money, which group basically is going to give him money. So like this basically we are going to discuss into one 8 part, that is this is basically 217 part.